Welcome to the PA Media Group Rally for Local webinar series. Thank you for joining us today for our fifth and final virtual training. My name is Jennifer Staub, and I'm the Talent Development Manager for Advance Local. I work with my peers from the PA Media Group in Mechanicsburg. My contact information is on the screen. I invite you to engage and connect with me or the PA Media Group as you'd like. Today, we are going to talk about COVID-19 rebounding strategies. Currently, in our ninth week of quarantine, the emergence of local small business in our region is getting closer. I read a quote recently that said, businesses especially will require fresh mindsets, new tools, and the iron-willed spirit of perseverance. Our goal today is to help you be prepared with that successful back to business strategy. As you begin to explore strategies to return to business, our team of advertising specialists is working remotely and is available to you via phone, email, and virtual meeting. They are ready to listen to your specific needs and offer guidance. There are some unique opportunities available to support your rebounding strategies. If you've been with us each week during the virtual training series, you will notice 3 new PA Media Group team members. Today we feature Kelly Gambini, Director of Sales, Gwen Whitman, Account Executive, and Cassandra Shoreland, Account Executive. Kelly Gambini understands a dynamic environment. Navigating change at our company over the past 26 years has allowed her to be innovative, creative, and lead our team to embrace all the qualities that create a partner with our clients as opposed to being a vendor. She has built custom solutions for our corporate, local, and vertical industry clients as a true marketer. Kelly holistically approaches marketing a business by the deep understanding of every facet: consumer behavior, market intelligence, platform and channel performance, and general business acumen. She has been in many roles at our company, including managing our marketing department and running a successful in-house agency before her role as sales director. Her passion and dedication to each client's success and the success of her sales team is uncompromising. Kelly found Netflix a year ago and has been watching more TV, especially during COVID, than she has in the past 20 years. She'll never go back to regular programming because she could never again be able to wait to see what happens next after discovering this new version of reading a book. Cassandra Shoreland relocated to Pennsylvania from Los Angeles, California, and is a new addition to the PA Media Group family. Cassandra has an interesting background ranging from the video game industry, mobile payments, and telecommunications. She's excited to be a local resource to business owners and bring a fresh and creative marketing perspective. Outside of work, she enjoys traveling, gardening, and spending time with family and friends over a fabulous glass of wine. During quarantine, Cassandra and her 4-year-old son Liam have found a fun new hobby: Zumba. They also walk their German Shepherd pup, Arya, each day. Yes, Arya was named after Game of Thrones. And Gwen Whitman joined the PA Media Group in 2012 as an account associate, which she believed would be a temporary position. On her 1-year work anniversary, she welcomed her son Calvin. Returning from maternity leave, Gwen was given the opportunity to transition into sales, and here we are 7 years later. Gwen loves working in the major healthcare category as she feels they have a very strong presence in the central PA market. Additionally, she was born and raised in Mechanicsburg and loves that she works for a company that she has known her whole life. Outside of work, she enjoys spending time outdoors, and her favorite spring or summertime activity is getting on the creek to kayak. She even named her dog Hobie after the kayak brand. On Christmas Eve, Gwen welcomed her daughter Dylan and returned from maternity leave to spend only 2.5 days in the office before being sent home to work remotely. Her favorite quarantine activities are finding home renovation projects for her husband, family walks, and trying new restaurants for curbside pickup. So we'll start with Cassandra. Cassandra, are you on mute?
Yes, I was. Excuse me, guys. Thank you, Jen. I'm very excited to be discussing this hot topic today. We all have personally experienced a radical change. From working from home, parents becoming teachers overnight, virtually communicating amongst family and friends, to wearing masks at the grocery store and waiting 6 feet away from one another. This is what today looks like. Now on to the more important question. What does tomorrow look like? The big question on everybody's mind. Unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball. What we will be discussing today will highlight what we have seen thus far in our local marketplace, what we can anticipate, and how to prepare for the future. The COVID-19 crisis has impacted us all on different levels. No business or company has had to recover from a situation like this. The good news, we were all in the same boat, and you're not alone. Yesterday was yesterday. No business is the same, and adaptation can come in various forms. So this quote is quite relatable. It is not the strongest species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the most responsive to change. So next slide, please. So we, PA Media Group, along with our partners at Drive Research, surveyed Pennsylvania residents last month about their quarantine, which provided us with an amazing insight and will help us guide our rebounding strategy discussion today. The first question, how would you describe your COVID-19 quarantine in one word or phrase? Without question, you can see the most popular responses on the screen. Boring, followed by scary. Which phrase do you relate to most? Boring, scary, cautious? Why? Now ask yourself to, Now I ask you to relate this question to your current customers and clients, and more importantly, how do you think your potential customers would answer? Next slide, please. Next, I would ask you to ask yourself how your current business model has responded to the COVID crisis. Are you flying fast, aggressively, over tall, sharp, rigid mountains? Are you flying at a consistent pace over medium-sized mountains? Or are you flying low and slow to the ground and watching others fly by you? I'd ask you to keep this important question in mind as we go through our presentation. Next slide, please. In the survey I referenced earlier, we asked some future spending related questions. Perhaps this will give you guys some information to make decisions on how to position your business. The first question was asking how much money was anticipated to be spent on indoor and outdoor home improvements over the next 6 months. About 1/4 of respondents said that they would spend between $1,000 and a little shy of $10,000. The main takeaway here is that even in a fearful environment, people will still continue to spend. Next slide, please. The healthcare industry. Wow, has it changed? For doctors, nurses, patients, more than ever, we see healthcare professionals as heroes rather than just our local doctors. With that being said, how has your opinion of telemedicine or digital healthcare changed since COVID? We see here that 2/3 of respondents said that they are much more or somewhat more likely to consider using telemedicine. With that being said, how is your business strategy or customer service strategy adapted? If you're not in the healthcare industry, are you offering a virtual service component? Are your products and services available online? Are you offering touchless delivery or payments? In short, how are you adapting? And more importantly, how do you think your customers would rate your response during the COVID crisis? How do they view you? Do they feel safe? Can they easily communicate with you? Do they know that you exist and trust you and your products or services? Next slide, please. So as businesses navigate the opportunity to conduct business virtually, it's really made our world a little bigger. With a bigger world comes more competition. We found that consumers indicated that they are willing to search outside of their local areas to conduct business, which makes sense since we're all limited to conducting our business through virtual meetings, video chats, etc. As a result, the traditional geography areas in which you have done businesses may have changed, as well as your everyday consumer. Your customer may look very different than what he or she did in the beginning of the year. The last few weeks has been a time of tremendous change for companies, especially businesses that involved an outside sales model, which I'm sure pertains to many of you on this call, and now temporarily adjusting to an inside sales model. This really has become a requirement for businesses hoping to maintain and/or grow. In times like these, adapting, pivoting, cultivating, and building strong, lasting relationships remotely is more important than ever. It really, truly is essential. In addition, investing and showcasing yourself and your business, whether it be through brand awareness, your unique response to COVID-19. We've seen some pretty creative thank you to healthcare professionals and customers in which have moved towards the video chat customer service or virtual consultations. Really adapting to new ways of doing business is being noticed, as well as it's being evaluated by current customers and, more importantly, potential customers, which is why branding and messaging during this very uncertain time is extremely important. Next slide, please. And finally, we asked how the 2020 government stimulus check might be used. You can see the answers touch all topics ranging from groceries to bills to future vacations, investments, and home entertainment. Nobody knows the answers, as much as we'd love to know them, especially to the everyday daily questions such as, what date are we actually going to be able to go out to a restaurant and eat, right? Or go and see a movie in a theater again? Or do we think that folks are going to start to stay in hotels as soon as the crisis is over? Much of this is a wait and see. However, what is clear is what you can do today to communicate with your current and potential clients. Next slide, please. So, knowing what you know now, will you plan ahead, navigate, adapt, pivot, innovate, or just pilot along? Those are the main questions. Gwen will actually be discussing in more depth some strategies that may make a positive impact for you. Take it away, Gwen.
Thank you, Cassandra. So as many of you may be enduring currently, we've all had to adapt, we've all had to change. And I have actually taken on a new role of IT as I am trying to navigate these slides with you. But really, my experience with COVID-19 can be very similar to yours. And we at the PA Media Group are just like you in the local community. We are natives here. Some of us have moved to this area, but one thing is for sure that we're all enduring this together in many different ways and fashions. And as it was mentioned, in our bios, I was in the office 2.5 days after maternity leave before being sent home to work remote. So during, I had my daughter on Christmas Eve and I was already in this bubble of quarantine because it was flu season, it was RSV. I wanted no one coming near my house, with a newborn. So I kind of had that adaptation to, being a little bit of a germaphobe and making sure that everyone was safe and in our little bubble. And to end my maternity leave, my best friend was having her wedding in April, and we decided to go to Fort Lauderdale for a bachelorette weekend. And I remember going to the airport, and COVID-19 was something that was being mentioned in the news, but it wasn't, what it is today. But it was almost like hearing coronavirus at an airport was that taboo and that scariness. And I even remember someone wearing a mask in line to board the plane and a man asking her, "Why are you wearing that mask?" And she was like, "Oh, I have asthma. I have to be cautious, of the air filtration, and I don't want to have an asthma attack." And that fear was a little bit there. It was lingering, but to be honest, I was more fearful for takeoff as I am a terrible flyer. But things today really do look a lot different than they were just a few months ago, including how consumers act and purchase. And what I love about this slide is it really shows the transition of everyone's everyday life, whether you have kids that were previously in a classroom that have had to adapt and change to online learning and you becoming that at-home teacher, to working in an office setting and being able to collaborate amongst your peers freely, sitting as close as you want and going out on meetings, to working in the comforts of your home and trying to figure out your home office setting. even shopping in a store, and how that has changed. I've always been an online shopper, but even now, more than ever, I am finding any reason to buy things online. And as you can see, even with those that have been, previously working out in gyms, or those have taken on a new interest in working out, what that looks like at home. Everybody has a new normal, and really the way people experience and fulfill their needs has fundamentally shifted. The lines are now blurred, which requires a business to reprioritize the market demands. And if you understand how a consumer behavior is shifting, you have a better chance of adapting. There is no more normal as you knew it before. Your mindset truly needs to be proactive versus reactive, as we see the devastating effects of how rapidly this virus is changing daily. We really can't be looking at the future of, okay, well, we'll plan for tomorrow. We need to be planning now. Together, these profound shifts in how people experience day-to-day life have created a dynamic change of the how, when, where, and why of consumption. They necessitate a rethink from marketing to the needs of consumers to really marketing to the needs of at-home consumers. And here are some questions that you should be asking yourself as you work to pivot your marketing to meet the needs of those new consumers. How are we providing help to consumers as their needs evolve? How are we adjusting to the new 24/7 consumption? It's no longer operation from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Your consumer is everywhere and they are shopping constantly. How are you embracing novelty to help consumers fight boredom? For me, I think that's been the most difficult thing. As I mentioned before, I was already quarantined since December, so I was ready to get back into a normal routine. I was ready to get back into my everyday work routine, my everyday life, getting some time away from being sleep deprived. And like I said, I was only in the office 2.5 days before I was thrown back in. And while there are definitely blessings and positives in that, there's definitely difficulties too in learning how to adapt and change. According to the American Psychological Association, reactance theory refers to a response triggered by the loss of behavioral freedom. In response to this loss, a person will experience an extreme desire to restore that freedom. If you're anything like me, you've probably been watching a lot of Food Network or HGTV, and not only is it that I found new interest in home renovation and cooking, but I need a mental break away from this COVID-19 situation. It is everywhere we turn. It is on social media. It is on the news. It is outside amongst your neighbors speaking. So for me, I really wanted to get away from that, and I've tried to engage in different things and ways to be proactive at home. So like I had mentioned, I have all these new home renovation projects that while I will definitely engage in, it's more so my husband that's taking on. But not only, is this a new interest at home, as Cassandra mentioned before, a lot of consumers are bored and they're anxious and they're looking for new ways to fill that time. Our excuses are really limited as many of us are now stuck at home looking for projects to take on and a new wall to paint. But with that boredom, we also see that consumers have a new desire to engage in what used to be everyday activities and really take their lives back. This mentality and behavior can already be seen as people endure cabin fever and almost a sense of FOMO, or a fear of missing out. As I even recently developed anxiety over the lack of flour and baking essentials in the market to fulfill my new desire to make cupcakes. It's almost like if it's taken away from us, now we want to do it. Being denied or restricted on normal everyday activities will only increase the desire and need to engage with them. So what can be seen as even more depressing is my newfound joy of accompanying my husband for curbside pickup, a task that used to be mundane. But again, people want to break that cycle of this normal now, and they want to get back to their everyday lives, however they can do it. Business owners, though, need to stay in front of this new demand and realize that their audience is taking on many new faces during this time of change. What you previously knew to be your customer, pre-COVID, even in February and March, can look drastically different today. And you need to be able to adapt to those needs as well as the needs of your customers before. It's also very important to be able to communicate in real time to this audience as new supply and demand patterns emerge. One of my favorite marketing resources available is Think with Google. And we will definitely be able to share information on ways to obtain information there. But the articles that they produce are short, they're easy to read, and they focus on real-time issues. Whether you're on the marketing side of it, whether you're a business owner, or whether you're a general consumer, there's really information for everyone. And one of the articles that I had engaged with prior to this reflected on the recent effects of COVID-19 on businesses and their marketing efforts. And Think with Google recommends 3 strategies as you navigate this dynamic environment. So staying informed, take the pulse of the current landscape and category demand to understand the needs of your customers. Resources such as Google Trends and Google Alerts can help you stay up to date on these local conditions, as well as better understand your customers' frame of mind. Review metrics by categories to see what customers may be searching for across your search and shopping campaigns, especially if you sell high demand products during this time. The second is to be current and transparent. Your customers are looking for information and they're trusting your company to deliver. So make sure you proactively communicate any business or product availability updates. You do not want to hide behind this virus. You do not want to act like it is not happening. Address it and address what changes you're proactively making to make your customers more comfortable and to meet their needs and demands. Make sure if your business listings and your business profile are updated with any changes in your hours of operation, and also adjust your ad message to inform customers and new customers any extra precautions that you're taking, such as providing any extra services to the community or whether you're experiencing delays. Be transparent, and again, don't try to hide. Use your website as your virtual brick and mortar with updated changes, good or bad, such as shipping delays or earlier closing times. A study recently done by Kantar reported that 77% of consumers say they want brands to talk about how they are helpful in everyday life. 75% want brands to talk about their efforts to face this COVID-19 situation, and 70% want brands to offer a reassuring tone. Your messaging is a perfect way to do this, but most importantly, keep that communication open and often. And last, adjust in real time. As consumer behaviors shift, make sure product information is up to date across all channels and communications to ensure you're striking the right tone during this time. Don't push your customers to competitors over a simple error such as this one. Reassess your creative and ad campaigns by asking yourself, is this creative or ad placement right for this moment and in this context? It may feel like the environment is changing every second, but it's important to remember that you are not in this alone. What I would love to quote is, remember that losing time and revenue because of a crisis like COVID-19 is painful. But if you fail to find a way to learn and improve from it, you are allowing yourself and your business to lose twice. As I was doing my research on this topic, this was my favorite article. Again, one with Think with Google, as it really hits home with the PA Media Group. It resonates with and supports. It resonates with the support and guidance that we've been trying to give since this all started. The marketing playbook is gone. Brand strategies for this moment are being written and rewritten on the fly. You have to think like a caring human being with the resources to help millions, then act accordingly in the mutual interests of business and society. As long as you're thinking like an empathetic human being, you can't go wrong. Don't be self-serving, don't be cynical, and don't talk like an organization. Do the right thing and keep doing it when the coronavirus situation ends. Because feeling uncertain in uncertain times means that you have the emotional intelligence to thrive in the future. But don't let the uncertainty paralyze you. The reemergence of local businesses is not going to go from dark to light with the flip of a switch. Spending might be slow, but you need to trust in your brand. Trust in your brand might not always be immediate. This is really a staircase approach. Confidence in shopping might not happen right away. However, people will spend and people will trust and people will shop. You have to do what you can to be in the right place at the right time and do the right things to gain the most market share as soon as it's available. And now I'm going to turn it, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly Gambini to really help you reevaluate your strategy.
Sorry, Gwen, I didn't mean to jump the gun.
You're
there.
okay. No worries.
So basically the objective now is really to apply everything that we've talked about. And it really starts with reevaluating what your current strategy is and adapting to the new model of consumer behavior. Generally, and we're already seeing this, there are three kinds of business evolution that will emerge from COVID. And unfortunately, there will be businesses that close, the businesses that are selling new products and services in ways they've never sold them before, and the businesses that potentially come back stronger by being on the front line of innovation during this event. And moving forward strategically is absolutely critical. What we've already learned from the previous two presenters actually can be absolutely applied in a very methodical way. And it really starts with evaluating your current business model. And this is not completely recreate yourself, a complete infrastructure change, but this is really looking at the basics of how your business model could or should have evolved during this time. Have you started virtual appointments? Have you started e-commerce? Or how can you monetize virtual options? Are there new brand opportunities with what you offer from a product line? Obviously, the supply chain has been stressed during heightened demand for certain products. Do you have one that's a great substitute? Have you identified new customers that have done business with you as a result of this event? And how can you serve them? And ultimately, what does that new customer profile look like? Number two, challenge your marketing spends by medium. Incredibly important in reevaluating how you're going to come back. What does your current marketing media mix look like? Does it reach your customers when and where they want to be reached? As a general statement, digital media consumption accounts for over 60% of customers' time. During COVID, I would have anticipated that number to be significantly higher. So does your current marketing plan take advantage of that? If not, it's time to start. The great news is that digital is completely scalable, which allows you to compete with larger brands who have larger budgets. Adding marketing channels that now resonate with today's consumer. The most instrumental, obviously, to include is everything digital. Specifically, you'll definitely want to look at social and video. And I'd really like to share two examples with you. The Progress Grill, a customer of ours, was closed. They were not offering curbside pickup. They had just closed their doors, but they decided that they also needed to serve their employees. So they did a social post. They basically anticipated providing 30 takeout meals for their customers and anticipated those customers being from their current customers that visited them frequently. Instead, the outcome was they served 120 takeout orders. 90% of the customers were customers they had never seen before. So obviously through this, they gained a following because they were supporting their employees in the endeavor, and people responded to that. People said, I want to do business with them. Now's a great time to try the Progress Grill. So basically they had quadrupled how many customers they had, and most of them were new faces that they'll hopefully serve after COVID. The Lancaster County Career and Technology Center really adapted with a video model. They needed to continue to enroll students, so they offered video tours of all their career paths. Basically, they wanted to show potential students what the visual experience was going to be of going to school there, whether they can actually go to the classroom or not. They aggressively used video, and obviously one of the key points with video is, and should be noted, is that people remember 20% of what they see, 30% of what they hear, 70% of what they see and hear together. And as we move to a more and more video-oriented society, it will be absolutely instrumental that you include this moving forward. So number 4, if you are using both stimulus and directive tools to engage your customer, it is super relevant to be throughout their purchase journey engaged with them. On the stimulus side, if you have not been advertising, you will have to win back the customers who have stopped really kind of thinking of you as a choice because there is no brand awareness for you in the market area. There already is and will be more noise or competition than ever in the advertising environment. So how do you stand out? Is it a different channel? Is it in your messaging? And once consumers are actively shopping and they think about you as a choice, you need to be easily findable in search. You need to give them a path to convert. Finally, if you use intelligent messaging and creative to convey your brand and your point and certain details about your business, you need, back to Gwen's point, be candid about your business, how it has been effective. People love the authenticity and will want to support you. Also, it's incredibly relevant that you show the consumer how your business has adapted to serve them. Are there masks on the servers in restaurants? What it looks like by using video, showing them what that experience will be. It will instill trust in the customer experience. It will instill trust in them doing business with you. And whether we're in this circumstance or not, you need to make it easy to do business. Consumers have a lot of choices. Be intuitive to what they want and need, reliable in performance, and don't use ambiguous terms like great customer service. Everybody has a different definition of that, and your job is to show them and tell them what that means. So I'd like to share some examples of some of these strategic adaptations as you work through that process. These are currently concepts that have been outlined by current customers of ours. But I'd like to challenge you to think about this before we even start. On average, it takes more than 2 months before a new behavior comes automatic. 66 days to be exact. Jen actually quoted that we're about 63 days from when consumer behavior was forced to change. So how are they viewing you and your current model, and what adaptation do you need to make before we really get back to what we consider the new normal of business? Some adaptations you may have already or may have not witnessed. Restaurants with curbside contactless pickup, contactless delivery. Panera Bread can bring you avocados, milk, or tomatoes. Who would have ever thought that? You can have a burrito party through Taco Bell or a taco bar. Chick-fil-A, you can actually make their chicken parm at home with meal kits. Food trucks setting up in neighborhoods. Some really inventive things. Grocery, ironically, is less online and more in stores since there's limited opportunity to do something outside your home. And retail, you've seen info-only websites change to selling online. I think one of the biggest changes has been classes that are offered. You previously had instructors, students, home improvement, insurance, and attorney services, healthcare, that are now moving to virtual classes, appointments, and quoting. Entertainment, less TV, more streaming, and experiential entertainment is happening online, as we'll take a view at a virtual wine event that the Hershey Vineyard, actually conducted this past month. So these businesses actually represent those medium and marketing transformations that have already happened. I think a notable idea right here is the fact that regardless of whether they're doing business, they are actually talking about their business, what they're doing differently, and they're highlighting their brand. They're creating that brand awareness, because ultimately what you are doing today will really impact you about 3 months from now. So let's just highlight a couple of these examples that you currently see. Dreyer Physical Therapy, they were not set up to do virtual appointments. Within 2 short months, they are now marketing, which takes a very large infrastructure change, to actually doing physical therapy in virtually, as opposed to in the home, in the office. And they have found markets where they are being underserved and can now bring this virtual therapy to different markets than they previously marketed to. Penn State Health developed an app for telehealth and COVID testing that launched. Butler Street Community, a new senior living community, they're not open, but they're thanking the healthcare workers. And what's that doing? That's creating brand awareness. So when they go back to normal operations, people will have a brand, and they'll affiliate with the brand their social responsibility by thanking people, which will help drive people to them. People want to do business with brands that they like and that care about the community. Jackson Siegelbaum, they're now using really kind of a multi-platform approach. Prior, they were traditionally a print customer, but they understand they need to reach a mass audience to scale what their services are, which now also offer some virtual options. So from a mass perspective, they're leveraging both print and digital in a very targeted way, print in the fact that the age demographic that serves, and also one of the largest mass mediums, to really talk collectively to that audience. And finally, at the bottom, you'll see our own in-house full-service production studio called Penn Studio, and we're using Facebook to basically talk to customers about what the power of video is and how they can leverage it, because you don't have to have a full production shoot. We can literally do videos where we're taking pictures, doing voiceovers, and it's really something that we haven't focused on as a business ourselves, but it's a real opportunity right now to change your marketing message and get that out in the market area. So, as Gwen mentioned during her discussion, you have to understand how consumer behavior has changed. If you fail to ask that question and understand how to use the information you uncover, it will hinder you in your success in post-COVID. So continuing through that 5-step process, if you're talking about adding marketing channels and the impact of alignment with creative and messaging with consumer behavior, I'd really like to talk about a couple examples on this page. Social, for instance, has had an even larger impact on consumer behavior. This channel, in a lot of cases, has really been overlooked outside of organic posts because of the lack of understanding of influence and ROI attribution, which isn't the case. And I basically demonstrated that with the Progress Grill example previously. But you can see here again down at the bottom of the page, Progress Grill is featured, and it's in a social post highlighting restaurants that are open for business, featuring the business owners. You may or may not be able to see, but they have masks on, they have gloves on. There are, their bag takeout orders that they're offering curbside pickup. So they're actually demonstrating how their brand has adapted to the new norm, or what the environment is and what the consumer needs to see to feel safe doing business with them. In Penn State Health, up at the top of the page, those are real people. Their advertising campaign actually involves taking pictures of how they are conducting business. Again, it's saying this is what heroes look like, but also giving the consumer the idea that they can operate in a safe environment. On the left is a really neat example with Renewal by Andersen. Our content team started what was called Windows of Hope, where we were taking photographs of people from their windows, looking out their windows, on their porches. We obviously were observing social distancing, but what was really neat was Renewal saw this, and our ad team came up with a sponsorship opportunity because obviously their biggest product line is windows. So they tied into, we can still offer hope for your windows, playing off of content, sponsoring that content piece. And then they're actually running a contest in conjunction with that, where they're doing a giveaway weekly. This coming week, if you take a photograph, it's actually a $500 giveaway to Carnes Foods, where they're giving away something not from their business, but something they know that the community can use, will appreciate, given the layoffs, given the situations, and ultimately a really creative way to tie in their product. Because ultimately, whether you're a business owner or not, these businesses still need to find ways to conduct business. And you might be one of them. And this was a really creative way that they could still be socially responsible, but also protect their business. Finally, in the middle, you'll see our Welcome Home logo. And they publicized virtual tours to buy or sell a home. During this period of time, we've seen a lot of agents offering virtual tours. And I think one of the biggest takeaways is that life always finds a way. It's actually a Jurassic Park movie quote, but it really is, if you think about it, people have adapted, found a way to do business, and in a lot of cases, it has driven innovation, better ways, other ways to do business, and potentially new revenue sources. And these are all multiple ways to show how to connect with the consumer. And really, as the final thought for you today, the price of doing the same old thing is far higher than the price of change. It rings true more than ever. Take the 5 steps and set yourself up for success. If you're not sure how to navigate through reentry into the marketplace, it would be our pleasure to partner with you to help. And now is the time to be planning. As I said earlier, it really, from an advertising perspective, and there are a lot of things that we've talked about that you can absolutely implement on your own, but what you're doing today will impact how your business is operating 3 months from now. We really hope you found this webinar insightful. We appreciate the time you've spent with us. And now I have the distinct pleasure of turning it back to Jen Staub for Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, thank you to all, Kelly, Gwen, and Cassandra. It was incredibly insightful and very, very important topic for where we are today. I think our future is a lot closer than we realize. So I have a couple questions. Kelly, I'm going to stick with you since you had just spoken. On the slide where you had the 5 points, you mentioned the stimulus and directive advertising, and someone asked if you could explain the difference between those. They weren't familiar with those terms.
Absolutely. Stimulus advertising is you pushing your marketing message out to the market area. It is you telling the consumer what you have or why they should choose you as a business choice. And what happens is, and you tend to think of that as traditional media, billboard, radio, TV, print, and digital online. There are some components that absolutely are stimulus, but you're stimulating people to do business with you. The directive side of that is when they are actually ready to do business with you. So the hope is that, and you really need both sides of the equation to market effectively, as you're creating that brand awareness, people might not be in the market for what you're offering, but when they are, the objective of stimulus is that you think that you have created a pattern where they do think of you. And on the directive side is where they are actually looking for information about you. They are compelled to initiate that interaction with the business, particularly through search. It can be social with lead gen, but you need to be on both sides of the equation, because if you're just pushing out your message and are not found when they're ready to find you, then those dollars on the stimulus side could go to your competitor to convert that customer, or you might not be effectively utilizing those dollars because you're only showing them what you want to show them and not available when they want to find you.
Nicely said. Cassandra, I'm going to ask you the next question. Somebody had mentioned that the survey that you referenced sounded interesting, and they'd like to hear more about it and know some of the other questions that were asked. I thought maybe you could let everyone know where they might be able to find more information.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Jen, would you mind putting it in the chat, the URL link as to,
Sure.
the search paper, as well as we'll be sending out an email recap that will actually have the URL link included. So there's some really great information, and happy that we were able to talk about a few of those areas.
Perfect. And finally, Gwen, you had mentioned a couple Google resources when you were speaking, and someone mentioned that they were unfamiliar with those. I thought maybe you could highlight those reference materials that you said were so good for you.
Absolutely. So I utilize Think with Google, and funnily enough, you can just Google it, but really it's www.thinkwithgoogle.com. They also provide a great resource of signing up for a newsletter. And again, it's very timely information and very short reads. So it's nice to get updated with that. So there is a newsletter that you can sign up with as well to get these in your email. The other thing is trends.google.com. And again, this is staying current with the times and seeing what those trends that Google is seeing that would relate to your business. It's very easy to navigate, very interesting, and a great way to waste some time, because you could really get down into a rabbit hole with some of the information they provide. But again, very useful and great to use as insight and a tool.
Thank you. I find those resources from Google are incredibly timely. Sometimes when you look up information, it's old information that you find, and Google is right on top of things that are happening as recently as this week. So check Trends with Google and Think with Google for sure. So thank you all for joining us. For those of you that have been with us through this journey for the past month and a half, thank you very much. Of course, we'll be sending out a copy of this recording as well as a link to view the slide deck. So feel free to do that as well. Keep an eye out. PA Media Group, as well as Advanced Local, is going to be putting out an ebook called Opening Up America, How Your Business Can Win with the Right Marketing Strategy. We don't have it quite ready yet, but it will be coming soon. And so I encourage you to pay attention and see that so you can participate in that as well. So thank you to all. Thank you for your support of our virtual trainings. Check out rallyforlocal.com if you have not. That's our website where we feature over 400 local businesses who are telling you if they're open for business and how you can support them, whether that's through buying gift cards, whether that's doing delivery or contactless pickup, etc. So take advantage of that resource as well. Thank you all for attending. Bye-bye.